Hey, ChatGPT fans, if you've been following anything about the news lately, you know that some Samsung software engineers released some proprietary code because they used that code, they try to check the code on ChatGPT. And with ChatGPT terms of service, there's no expectation that they're not going to use that and make it part of the product. So, let's look at a few things. But as you see, there's a number of articles that discuss this leak. And that's a big problem for a company like Samsung to have proprietary software public released out there that others can see and use. So, something to know why this is important from software before we get into the terms and service of OpenAI is some software is patentable. You can protect it that way, more of how the software functions if it rises to a certain level. You can protect it by copyright, but that only protects exactly the code itself. And in order to do that, you need to disclose the code. Same thing with a patent. You don't need to disclose the exact code, but how it works. Whereas if you just keep it a secret, proprietary, think of the Google search algorithm, think of the Coca-Cola formula or KFC formula. Those are all trade secrets kept under lock and key. Everyone that works on them is, signing contracts. But if they get out, whether someone breaks a contract or not, they're out there. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So this is a big problem if coders, developers are using ChatGPT to check or write pieces of code for their software that's proprietary. They could be releasing it publicly to others. And when you look at ChatGPT terms of service, they basically tell you that we're not going to protect this. This is not, do not expect any privacy on this. We're continuing to develop OpenAI and learning off of what you put in there. We're reviewing it and we're going to share it with third parties. So you really have no expectation of privacy, what you put in there. So be aware of that. And just to give you, a look at it. Uh, okay, so here. Your content, you may provide input to the services and receive output generated and returned by the service based on the input, which is called the output. Input and output are collectively content as between the parties. Da 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 da. This means you can use content for any purposes, including commercial purposes such as sale or publication if you comply with these terms. But OpenAI may use content to provide and maintain the services. So this is the key here where it says OpenAI may use the content to provide and maintain the services, comply with applicable laws, and enforce their policies. You're responsible for content, including ensuring that it does not violate any applicable laws of these terms. Use of content to improve our services. We do not use content which you provide or receive from our API content. So they're setting aside the API content versus what you just put directly into ChatGPT. We may use content from services other than API to help develop and improve our services. You can read more about how our non-API content may be used to improve your model, and we'll look at that in a second. If you do not want your non-API content to be used to improve our service, you can opt out by filling this form, and we'll take a look at that form as well. Please note that in some cases, this may limit the ability of our services to better address your specific use case. So if you decide to opt out, you might not get as good a quality of service. Now, one of the things here is I didn't see that it distinguishes between a just ChatGPT 3 free user versus a ChatGPT Plus that can also use ChatGPT 4 user. It only differentiated between using the service and then using the API. So just keep that in mind. And here's how it, okay, yeah, that was the link from there. So one of the most useful and promising features of AI models is that they can improve over time. We continuously improve our models via scientific and engineering breakthroughs, as well as exposure to real-world problems and data. OpenAI does not use data submitted by customers via our API to train OpenAI models or improve OpenAI's offerings. Again, there's still, this was from that link in the terms about the AI, OpenAI's API versus not. In order to support the continuous improvement of models, you can fill out this form to opt in to share your data with us. So that's if you are using the API, you can opt in to share to make it better. When using our non-API consumer services, ChatGPT or DALL-E, we may use this data you provide to us to improve our models. You can request an opt-out using this form. We remove any personal identifiable information from data we intend to use to improve model performance. We also only use a small sampling of data per customer for our effort, but they're going to use it. So that's there. And now looking at their privacy policy, how we use personal information. And the key here is to know that they basically say they're going to disclose it to anyone they want to, any third party. So know that, and here's the easy way to look at it, identifiers such as your contact details. We disclose this information to our affiliates, vendors, and service providers, law enforcement, and parties involved in transactions. So pretty much generally whoever they want. Commercial information such as your transaction history, they're going to give all that over to. New activity information such as your content and how you interact with service, your geolocation data, and your account login and credentials. So they're willing to share pretty much everything with whoever they want. So that's something to know about. As I said, there is a form that you can fill out to opt out of the data sharing, but it will affect your results. Again, I didn't see where it's clear if you're paying, ChatGPT Plus or whatever they call it, so you can get the better quality. If that's part of this data sharing, since they haven't carved it out, it looks like they only carved out API users. It looks like that's the only thing. That being said, is if you're using an API through a third party, something like I've used this, chat sidebar here before, the ChatGPT sidebar, which is great. It's essentially like it has all these different prompts already in here to do things, explain a code, rewrite the following. You're going to be subject to their terms of service as well. So you have to look at their terms of service on top of the open APIs. And although open API says they're not sharing anything that you put into in through an API, the company that's maybe the in between, the plugin, whoever, might use that data for something. So if you like learning about AI and especially ChatGPT and legal aspects of it, please subscribe below. If you like intellectual property and are just an inventor, CEO, founder, click below to subscribe. And of course, always feel free to reach out with any questions. Thanks for watching.